Yo, Jake, running around getting his coffee ready. It's a little bit of a new.
What is good, everyone? Dude, Adam looks like he's straight out of White Lotus, dude. Where are you?
Down in Jaco. So this is like the closest beach town to San Jose. My kid, you know, now that he's like almost an adult, he's got the full manipulative mode going, and he's like, hey, Dad, could we just, you know, maybe grab a place, you know, for Easter, you know, on the beach? And, you know, I made it sound good and made it sound like I'd be doing a good dad thing to get him and his girl a condo for, like, you know, vacation. So anyway, I got hoodwinked into getting an Airbnb down here. So, you know, enjoying the fun and sun, you know.
Looking
That's
good,
cool, dude. Yeah, literally look like you're straight out of White Lotus, dude. Episode 3 or season 3. So what's your son's 18?
Yeah, he's 18. I mean, you know, him and his girl, you know, I look at it as, look, there's only going to be so many more times, you know, where I can get with my kid and hang out for a few days. And so you try and take advantage of those times, man.
Oh, yeah, man. I feel it. Looking good. Have a good time.
Absolutely, dude. Chris, how you feeling this morning?
Good, bro. Ready to rock, baby. Markets felt like the most dead it's felt in a long time. I feel like over the last week, which I don't know. Sometimes that's like the signal, right? Everyone's bored out of their mind, and then it's almost time to not be bored. So
it was funny. I was just on a space right before this, and it was basically a hacked space. I've been hacked. You know, Hawk was on it. A couple other people have been drained this week. And people, I mean, this was interesting. People were like, oh, these kind of, you know, long scams where they work you through like social engineering and stuff. That only happens in the bear market. Like during the bull, all these scammers, it's all like clicking the wrong links and that sort of stuff. But that doesn't work in the bear. And so that's like a signal that we're actually really in a at least maybe a mid-bull cycle, you know, bear right now. So that I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's all kinds of scams that are happening. It seems to be ramping up. The Zoom exploit is definitely the most popular one that I've seen. There's like at least 50 to 100 different people I've seen affected to this, maybe even more. The one with Hawk, I believe, he said his Microsoft account was hacked.
I mean, he's not 100%
because
sure.
I get reset requests for my Microsoft account all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
And you're like, I haven't even used Microsoft. What am I doing?
Don't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, he thinks basically he's unsure at this point. He hasn't done the full deep dive yet, and he may never, right? He's just, go out, buy new machines, reset everything, redo everything. That was kind of his standard operating procedure. But the reality is he's like, look, some of these are 6 years old. It's possible he, screen grabbed his, seed phrase or something and didn't think he uploaded it, but OneDrive or something might have uploaded it somewhere that he has no idea where that is. Like, that's a possibility, and anybody could make that mistake.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson from all of this is if you're a developer, you have to do an air gap for your code base, and if you're a content creator, then you need to have separate computers for doing content and doing crypto. If it wasn't with my mistake, I had actually practiced all that. Somehow the keys to my ledger was on the computer somehow. Like, it got saved to the browser in some capacity over the last 3 years. If it wasn't for that mistake, the losses would have been pretty negligible. But one small slip up over a few years can happen. So if you whatever computer you're doing streaming from, or creating content in whatever capacity that is, whether it's creating videos or doing audio editing, etc., you should have literally just a burner, like burner wallets on there, like nothing else, which is what I was doing. But one small slip up somewhere had to have that happen. And then obviously, if you're a trader, should be kind of the same thing. You should just, if you're in crypto, you should just generally have two computers. And if you're interacting with video conferencing, always use the web browser application. Never download any type of desktop software. At this point, I'm like even considering deleting, WhatsApp desktop app and Telegram desktop and all of these. Like, it's tough to know. You don't know what other type of features these desktop apps have at the end of the day. So you should just be really skeptical of it all. And especially with Zoom, this seems to be the same thing because they have this remote access feature, which is default requestable, which is kind of the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I can't even believe it. I mean, like, how did it even go on for all these years? Like, I've been using Zoom for whatever, I don't even know, 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And to think that this is the first time that's been exploited, at scale is pretty incredible. Like, that this didn't happen in 21, frankly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with Zoom. I've been talking to them a little bit. I have some other things going on in the background, which, we'll see what happens from there. I'll definitely give an update on my case next week. I think on Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to post a thread. It's even crazier than what you think, than what people have seen from my posts, which have now over 1 million views between those three threads. Pretty crazy. The next one I think is going to be even crazier because these things are getting really, really, really sophisticated. But in other news, it seems like the biggest topic of yesterday was that basis for everyone, which is kind of funny because I woke up this morning and the price was actually at an all-time high. So a lot of times I think it's just best to completely fade whatever crypto Twitter is talking about. The outrage is always much more than what actually meets the eye, and people continue to move forward. The whole thing is basis for everyone. They use something called Zora, which has been around for a while. It was originally an NFT platform. I guess some point recently, over the last 6 months, they pivoted to this idea of tokenizing everything, whether it's tokenizing a post, tokenizing thoughts, tokenizing, I don't know, XYZ thing, whether that has some legs or not. I'm not really sure, but it seems like Base is all for it. And Jesse Pollock, who's the guy who's been running Base, has leaned into it a lot and got a little bit of pushback. But, if you're looking at price, the price is much higher than it was before the big drop happened. So I guess his idea is proven right if you're just looking at it from a speculative value. But conceptually, Adam, what do you think about the idea of trying to tokenize everything? A single post, a single thought, a single tokenizing your mom? I don't know.
No, it becomes okay. We do that. Everything is worthless. I just if you look up Jesse and look up his post where he kind of tried to separate out content coins from meme coins, I called bullshit on that. I mean, it makes no sense. Where he thinks that content coins are like no expectations, you just put it out, it's nothing's expected. Bro, it's like, are you in fucking crypto? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? That makes no sense. You're telling me if Elon Musk tweets something and he's like, it's just a content coin, man. Dude, get the fuck out of here. That's nonsense. It's a complete disconnect with the reality of what crypto is. Everything has expectations. If Jesse himself, I mean, I thought back to like 2021 where we were, tokenizing tweets or whatever. You can do that. But there's an expectation that if I'm tokenizing an Elon tweet, that has more value than if you're tokenizing an Adam McBride tweet, right? That's just the way it is. And to ignore that and say, no, there's no expectations here. Bro, go fuck yourself. That's bullshit. I don't even know how he had the balls to fucking tweet that shit. So stupid, dude. So anyway, yeah, his take on the matter and his, his grand vision of how he's going to separate content coins from meme coins is retarded. So yeah, that was my view on it.
I did see a lot of crying in the casino yesterday. Crying in the casino once again, bro. I mean, all things serious. Like, I mean, you shouldn't just have all these 90% drops all the time in every single coin. But if we really want to tokenize everything, why do we have to start with like the most worthless things? Like, we have billions of thoughts a day. Why do we need to start there? Why don't we start tokenizing some of the more important things? I don't really get it. I thought it was just kind of like a stupid slip up anyways. It didn't even seem like it was a slip up. It seemed like it was intentional. Thought that was pretty strange. And it seemed like the coin had momentum until they just completely nuked it. And so I guess maybe all publicity is good publicity. Maybe they got some reactions. You got some people crying in the casino. That's always fun to watch. There's obviously no free rides. People obviously aped more than they were comfortable losing. I mean, that was pretty obvious on the timeline, but I don't really know what they're doing. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why we're doing this again. But
to clarify, I don't actually care that they did it. I don't even mind that they did it, or I have no problem with them doing it, people buying and selling it or not, right? I actually have zero problem with the idea behind it. My only problem was the way Jesse had that tweet, which kind of like tried to separate it from meme coins in some way and make it, wash his hands away from it. That was the only thing I had a problem with. I actually don't have a problem with, them launching coins at all. Yeah.
I guess my take is more that we can tokenize everything, but we should, like, if you're tokenizing it, I think that means it's worth tokenizing. Like you're going that extra step. It should have even some sort of value. And if you think everything should be tokenized, then valuable things should be tokenized, which means they should probably start with launching their own token on Base. If everything should be tokenized, why wouldn't Base be tokenized?
Sure.
Why does it have to be the basis for everyone tweet or whatever? That's just kind of where I'm at. What do you think, Jake?
I did see Jesse. I'm trying to find the tweet. This morning, he was going back and forth with somebody. I think it was ICO Beast, where ICO Beast had said that he didn't think everything should be tokenized because 99.9% of everything is worthless. And then Jesse responds, well, the 0.1% could be very valuable. And also, I thought kind of a dumb statement at that point. I mean, I also, same idea, like trying to tokenize everything. I think it's more in the direction right now is more trying to financialize everything, which I don't think everything needs to be financialized. If you could attach something non-speculative in the tokenized form, like, hey, let's tokenize everything as an SBT or something like that, right? Maybe you take maybe you try a different route of it. I mean, at the end of the day, the industry is the wild, wild west. I have no problem with people trying to tokenize things. And if you get wrecked, the majority of the time, it's on you in terms of buying and selling tokens. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Base is just trying to find, where their edge is. They leaned into Banker. I see a lot of other projects complaining that they haven't really given, their base hasn't really given them support, like some other kind of like some other ecosystems tend to do, where they kind of uplift the creators. Like Totally tends to do that a little bit. He does Kingmake a little bit, which I'm kind of indifferent on. But sometimes you kind of have to do that in terms of showing support, right? It kind of goes two ways. Like Totally kind of did that with Griffin on Solana. A lot of people ended up getting wrecked, but it did bring more attention to kind of this DeFi AI sector on Solana. The idea of tokenizing everything, I don't know. To me, it's kind of a nothing burger. People are going to be more outraged than always. It seems like crypto people on the timeline are becoming more outraged than liberals do about green energy, which is kind of wild, right? I don't know if that's just like a product of the times because we're in a bear market, or people are really just that upset because they lost a bunch of money. But base is base. I think it'll continue. I think it'll continue to grow. The crypto space, right? Maybe now sees Base as like a Fed chain. Jesse Pollock definitely gives off WAGMI vibes of 2021 for sure, which I think is kind of outdated at this point in time. But the majority of people who are interacting with Base and interacting with Coinbase probably are not going to be this deep in the kind of cultural trenches of crypto. So long term, I don't think it really matters.
I think you made a good point there, which is the like with Toli and Solana. Yeah, he kind of acts as a kingmaker, but he also kind of supports kind of more. It seems like he's just a wider net of support. While Base and Coinbase specifically, it just seems it doesn't seem like they're supporting kind of a wider community. It's like they're very picky and choosy about what they support. And I think that's actually a lot of the pushback on the timeline. It's like, wait, you did this? And why is Brett not still listed on fucking Coinbase? Like, what the fuck? You accepted, Eric Voorhees token in 6 hours, yet this token is like still not fucking on Coinbase. It's that kind of pick and choose and king making and non-transparent king making that I think the timeline generally just doesn't like that shit.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think people still build on Base. It's still kind of the leading Ethereum L2. There's more that are going to continue to pop up. Abstract is trying to compete with it from the kind of coming in the entrance of the NFT kind of cultural aspect, where Coinbase is coming in from this institutional exchange. I think there's going to be a lot more competition here in the near future, but for now, they're still the top dog and commanding the majority of the Ethereum volume. So from a cultural standpoint, I think a giant nothing burger long term, but definitely showing some cracks in the base armor in terms of being a little bit directionless on a long-term value. Maybe investors will show that through the coin stock at some point.
Desktop had a good point there. It's this idea of tokenizing everything. I don't think anybody in cryptos kind of solved this issue, which is basically like the backseat issues, right? So if you have whatever, even if you're doing stocks on the blockchain or whatever, how do you have to have this almost a trusted third party where you can give backseas, right? Like you don't want people stealing your NFT, therefore you lost your house, right? So this is traditionally where, big entities or governments would step in and act as that, trusted third party. And I think, we're still very much figuring that out with real world assets, where who are these trusted third parties going to be, we're still at the early stages of figuring this shit out.
Yeah, and I liked kind of Chris's comment to this, and then we'll kind of move on here. Is he said, if you want to tokenize everything, why don't you start with tokenizing your network of Base, right? Because Base doesn't have a token.
Yeah, give me that. That's what the people want. And
totally, dude.
You can't really force culture, and this seems like you're trying to force people's hand into like establishing culture around Base, but culture has to be organic. It can't just be like handheld. So I don't know. It definitely gives those 2021 WAGMI vibes, which are completely off and seem like disingenuous. But that's where I'm at.
Yep. So one of my predictions heading into the year, which sounded kind of blasphemous at the time, still a little bit, but starting to show some stronger signs. I said that OpenSea was going to come in and have some of the biggest innovations of the year. Yesterday, they announced probably the coolest feature I've seen from them in a long time.
Yep.
The ability to be able to mint any NFT with any token. So mint a base NFT with Ape, mint a flow NFT with AVAX, mint a ApeChain NFT with ETH, right? This is kind of like out of the Emblem wheelhouse. Also, Magic Eden is doing this on a fungible token side with a Slingshot. But pretty cool. Cross-chain, obviously, tech becoming much more center focus over the last 3 months or so this year. Do you think this is the breakout year for cross-chain tech? And also, do you think this is any signs that OpenSea may be building towards something much, much larger and game-changing?
Honestly, it's a little bit, like you said, this is, well, we've been talking about this for, 2 years, basically. It's good to see him move in the direction. I don't know. I'd love to know a little bit more technically how this actually takes place under the hood. Are they basically acting as a centralized exchange here? Kind of the technicals. I didn't read into it yet this morning, but just a little bit understanding of how this is working technically. But yeah, I mean, the idea is right. I think this is absolutely the right idea. They're a little late. They're always a little late, but maybe this is the thing, and maybe this, is kind of the movement. But who's minting NFTs right now? I mean, it's just at the end of the day, without something new and exciting happening, you got to create the excitement. You got to create the FOMO, or the reality is the space doesn't really care. And but it is certainly what we're leaning into. This is exciting stuff for us for sure.
And I think that we learned this too. Like, I think the product feature is good, but no one cares about it. They should have lined up a couple cross-chain mints to release the actual product.
Totally.
Like it falls on deaf ears once people can't use it. But if they had an AVAX team ready to go and some multi-chain people from across different blockchains to kind of usher in the product launch, I think it would have helped a lot. But is anybody going to use this? Like Adam said, is anyone minting anything at all, let alone cross-chain? And then it just brings me back to like priorities. Like, out of all the things to build, was this the thing that needed to be built right now? And it kind of feels like no to me, but I could be off there.
Yeah, maybe this is just this is kind of their counter blow to Magic Eden going cross-chain, where they're like, hey, we're also building in that direction. Maybe it's more of like a grandstand of kind of business. Say, hey, we're not going to roll over. We're also building this direction, but we're going to do it in kind of this other unique way. We'll see. Yeah, no one's really minting NFTs. But as we know, building with Emblem, we're also building kind of for a future. Not many people are moving stuff cross-chain outside of Rare Pepe and some of these other collections for specific use cases. But at some point, there's going to be some aha moment in the industry, and everyone's going to go look for whatever the tool is that exists to use that. So it'll be this. It will be Magic Eden's Slingshot integration, or will it be Emblem or something else, or maybe a combination of all three?
Yeah, probably. And I mean, these are all super centralized, and Emblem is like extremely decentralized. So there's just kind of two different routes there, where it's like custodial versus non-custodial. It feels like everything's going on chain, and they're still trying to build for a world that's not on chain. It seems almost to me, but that's where I'm at.
Yep, I completely agree. So moving into the world of Ethereum and continuing in it, we saw yesterday that Solana launched, or Solana, what is it? Radium launched their Launch Lab product to compete with Pump Fund. We had this kind of discussion yesterday that kind of simultaneously on Bitcoin and Solana. On the application layer, these teams are competing for launch pads and swaps to take on all the tokens. Whereas Ethereum was kind of in this middle ground where it's like, what is the competition on Ethereum? And it still seems to continually be more L2s. Seems to be where the competition is. While coincidentally, Ethereum, I think, hit a very low yesterday of less than 100,000 in fee revenue for all of the people participating in validation. So
I mean, what was Gwei? Gwei was like 0.4 or something.
0.3. I took a screenshot of it. It's 0.3. Crazy. Just like no activity. So, it could be signs of people just moving on to L2s and participating, or people are just using Solana a lot more. And to be honest, it's probably a combination of both. But today, this was a highly anticipated layer 2 announcement that there's a new one called Converge Chain, which is built by Athena and Securitize, which was announced, I think, like a month or two ago. Athena does the yield-bearing stablecoin, I believe. They do some sort of like delta neutral strategy to get the yield on the stablecoin. And then Securitize has been around it's been around since I joined the space, 2016, 17. Just at least the idea of building it, which is just bringing equities on chain. So they're building this together. And it's going to be on Arbitrum and Celestia. And so it says that Converge will offer a highly performant EVM with added security features with a novel validator network to optimize for onboarding billions in institutional capital. So right out of the gate, sounds like they're trying to compete with, I think it's called Ondo, which is like the BlackRock RWA platform. So these are kind of like subtle hints of institutions or L2s being built specifically for institutions. Probably a big win for Ethereum, to be honest, even though just kind of looking past the massive depreciation in the token value. Chris, this is a little bit more up your alley, though. What is your take on now, I guess, a second kind of L2 focused on RWAs and institutional capital?
Bring them on chain. Bring these assets. These are actual assets that people want on chain. So bring them on chain. We want the Pokemon cards on chain. We want the sports cards on chain. Those are like the hottest items right now. Sure, maybe we want something else. But another thing that I thought would be cool too is like tokenizing actual sports teams instead of having like single or multi owners. These are kind of like the non-traditional assets. The that I think would do really, really well on chain. If you tokenize like a basketball team or something like that and just kind of distributed owners all over the world, I think that kind of is like a super cool use case that would just kind of bring in these non-traditional investors. I think it can do really well. But I mean, Ondo, pretty cool. The BlackRock RWA fund is doing well. I think they're up like 3 or 4x already. But I just think that this is the way that it's going. People want. We talked before, we're not really ready to go completely digital. Humans really like to take these step by step. And it seems like we really like this in between of physical and digital item or physical items that we can buy digitally. And so it seems like this is just another step in those directions.
Yeah, if you remember last cycle,
as a former Wall Street guy, do you think this is actually something that has legs here? Or do you think this is more of a fiction?
Well, I'm not sure about the stable aspect of it. What's the point of the stable? That I'm not sure of. Certainly stocks and everything Wall Street makes sense to bring that fully digital. The issue becomes what Desktop pointed out, the backseas issue, right? If I get, nobody wants their 401k sitting as an NFT that they could lose, right? So there has to be these L2s that, are centralized. It's just there is no other way that's going to happen. And frankly, there's no way I want my mom's retirement fund to be in any other way, right? I don't want it fully on chain because that shit's gone, right? So there has to be this middle ground. I think what this is this middle ground. The question is, for me, and Ethereum being like the foundational layer, is how is the foundational layer, which we're all invested in, everybody in crypto, you know, except the maxis, has a little bit of ETH. How is ETH going to make sure that all these layers which are built on top of it actually pushes value down to the base chain, right? That's the only thing that is my concern. You know, which is making sure that happens, because if that happens, then we all benefit. Like, we all own Ethereum, and you can build layers and layers, and the entire world's infrastructure can be built on top of it, and it can be centralized L2s, which manage all these real world assets. That's all awesome. We just need to figure out how the hell Ethereum is going to get above fucking 0.3 Gwei. Like, that just isn't never going to work, right? So I haven't heard one good answer to that yet. And maybe that's years away, and maybe we don't need to think about that. But if that like doesn't get solved, like, what is how? I just don't know how any of this works. You know, that has to get solved.
Well, I have a nice, giant, beautiful word for you. Tariffs. Got to tariff the L2s.
Exactly.
Got to add a tax on them.
Yeah, bro.
So that we can validate, so that the validators have revenue, so that we can compete with Solana, and we don't need users on the L1. We just, you know what I actually think it should happen is you should probably just have the NFTs trade on the L1, and then all fungible tokens should move to L2. Because it seems like people who trade NFTs want to trade them on the L1. It did seem like, I put this post out like a few days ago. It's kind of interesting when you look at the NFT space, where really the only NFTs that got any sort of traction over the last 2 years has been base net NFTs on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they both have huge friction points, right? Like Bitcoin, it fucking takes forever to have them transfer. Ethereum, whenever NFTs take off, you have to pay $30, $40 in fees. When you think about it in the traditional world sense, when you're trading items in the real world, right? Whether it's Pokemon cards or you're trading, you know, art, there is like shipping costs and taxes and stuff that come with that. So maybe that's, you know, maybe more symbolic towards the real world, where, hey, if you're going to trade non-fungible assets, there needs to be this friction and these fees, because that is something that's inherently existed in the real world. To move, you know, to move gold across the world, it's really expensive. To move art across the world, you know, you're paying 1-2% on whatever the value is. And maybe for Ethereum, it seems like the only type of traction, you know, or when the value of ETH went up was first during the ICO bubble, and then second was NFTs. And it seems like it really hasn't come back unless NFTs take off. And there was actually like a slight hint where NFTs were starting to come back, and ETH did go up to like $3,000. And now NFT mainnets has kind of died off. And it's the same thing for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was the price is doing well, but when miners were making money is when people were trading ordinals, right? And I guess runes too, considering it. So it's just something to think about. Maybe that's the case.
That's an interesting point, Jake, because I mean, it maybe is a little bit of human nature there, where when we're making a big ticket purchase, humans almost want it to feel harder to do, right? When you're buying a car, it's a painful experience usually, or a house or anything. It's not just like, you don't just flip a switch typically, although it's gotten much better now. But almost that those pain points almost give us the feeling of value, if that makes sense. That just may be a human nature thing. It's an interesting thought experiment there.
Yeah, on the counter side, it's when you look at the other side, where you look at things like Solana and Abstract and Base and stuff. And Solana has these have NFT communities, but the frictionless and low fees seem to be, anytime the NFTs get traction, that shit just immediately goes back down, right? Because there's no friction to kind of get out of it. Nobody wants to hold it. That the average time of held assets is significantly lower on these kind of high friction stuff. And maybe just the use cases are a little bit different, where it's like, you know, for those it's more towards gaming and some other type of aspect. But Chris, do you have any thought on, you know, NFTs, the state of them, and I guess kind of where it goes?
The state of NFTs, yeah. I mean, it's not looking good out there, but you know, I kind of agree that, I mean, these chains, they just seem to have their different like niches, and I can see fine art on Bitcoin. That makes a lot of sense to me. These PFP collections, these tokenized communities on ETH, like I think that's the best thing that ETH has going for it. I would like, Vitalik was obviously not a fan of NFTs. He was super vocal about it, but I think that was like the peak of Ethereum. That was when they had the most mind share. That was when they had the most kind of goodwill within the community. And then I think like utility and NFTs and some of these other kind of use cases for them, they make sense on kind of the lower time or the higher time preference chains like Solana and stuff like that, where they are moving very quick, but they're not going to kind of capture as much value. So, I mean, it just seems like there's not a lot of innovation happening in the NFT space. Not only is there not innovation, it just seems like there's not much kind of community willpower to stick around still. And I know there's a lot of turmoil. Even the highest value NFTs are really, really struggling, even with ETH prices down. So it's pretty brutal to watch. I mean, it's brutal everywhere in this market right now, but as we know, things change pretty quickly. So it's kind of crazy to see. No one would have thought, 5 years ago or 10 years ago that we would have everything going on in the world. These were all things that basically only the crypto community forecasted would be happening. And it seemed to be like pretty much super bearish for everything crypto. So it's kind of like a fun.
I mean, if you think about it, though, like with what's happening with Courtyard, I mean, that was all predicted. We knew that was eventually going to happen. And we know gaming is eventually going to happen, right? Eventually there will be, a GTA 6 type game with digital assets traded on a public blockchain. It will happen eventually. And we'll all be like, oh, of course, finally, we knew it, right? And it'll just be like, it'll be completely obvious. It's just not obvious yet to the rest of the world. I mean, it's obvious to us, but like a purely digital item not living on a public blockchain is just, it's nonsense, but the world doesn't understand that yet. I mean, we may be a decade away still from that happening.
Man, I really hope not. Speaking of NFTs, I don't know if we saw this. This is wasn't a lot of publication around this, but Mike in Space, the founder of Stamps, is officially joining the Counterparty team. I don't think he said specifically what his role is, but he said, I've officially joined the incredible team at Unspendable Labs, honored to work alongside the brilliant minds behind Counterparties to roll out some groundbreaking tools. First up is to check out the trustless PSBT market where you can trade counterparty assets. Adam, thoughts on Counterparty team getting the creator of Stamps to join them?
It's interesting. I don't know exactly other than, Mike as a personality. I like Mike. Mike's a good dude. It's interesting. I'm like, what's he going to do? What's he doing? Is he like their marketing arm? Maybe he is. I don't know. It's I don't know. This is like, it can't hurt. That's what was my view. And when I first saw the tweet about him joining the team, I said, well, okay, maybe Stamps are going to be, first-class citizens on Counterparty again. We'll run back the SRC 20s. I don't know, man. So yeah, I like Mike though, obviously. And, him being on the team, this is like great. It just needs, where's the excitement going to come? From it. And maybe you don't need excitement. It's Counterparty, it's rare Pepes, it's historical NFTs. The reality is nothing needs to change there. But of all the kind of L2s and meta protocols and blah blah blahs that have happened over the last since ordinals, like, do I think something interesting and creative, like where's the place I think something interesting and creative can happen? Like, I put Counterparty right at the top there, just because there's, I don't know, 30 dudes over there who are creative and will do creative shit and will try shit. So I would never fade something interesting happening on Counterparty. Like, we're all looking for something cool and interesting. I put Counterparty right there with, like, it's possible on Counterparty.
Yeah, I like Mike. Mike's great. It just seems like they need new energy over there, though. I do agree that they have, really creative people there now, but it's like the same 250 people. Like, they need to kind of expand outside of that bubble to bring new energy and attention into that bubble. And I think I don't know if they'll get it with Mike, because he's just, he's been around for so long. He's been in that community for so long. And so I just think that they just need some new energy. So maybe for some of their next hires, I would recommend someone from like outside of the counterpart.
Get some Zoomers in there, baby.
Exactly.
Need some content creators.
Yeah, need some TikTokers, man.
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising, how, and I say this with like, all love, like how little people care about Counterparty, even with like all the updates that have happened. Unfortunately, obviously, like our biggest user base is Counterparty for Emblem. When they launched Counterparty 2.0, the thought was like, oh, a lot of the activity will move over to Counterparty, and actually, it's been the opposite. We've even seen more people minting and moving stuff over to Ethereum.
Yep.
I don't know if it's probably just because it's habit now and liquidity is over there on Ethereum and there's better tooling. But, you go through kind of Horizon markets and on the atomic swaps. I'll try to see if I could find the last sale, but I was looking through it the other day. And so recent sales, right? There's been, it looks like 5 transactions in the last month or so natively. Look, there's
what?
No way.
It says right here, it says recent sales. It says March,
Holy
February.
Like that can't be right, bro. That can't be right. That's got to be wrong, bro. That's got to be wrong. They need to update the site, maybe. That can't be right, bro.
This is literally on Horizon Market. It says the most recent sale was March 17th and then February 26th, right?
That's
so
tough.
like,
those guys are doing so much work over there.
I know.
It's crazy to see. If that's accurate, that's heartbreaking, man. That's tough.
I know. I hope it's not. I know there is. I think Firemints is doing. I think has one. Let's see if I could find that website. That's the guys over at SRC Pad.
I mean, I definitely know the fork thing is still going on. That hasn't been resolved. It's just, it's gotten ugly over there, man. It's ugly stuff.
Firemints. All right. So I'm going to pull up Firemints. We'll see what's going on over here. This was like the #1 marketplace at the time, if it's even still kind of working. So let's see. Confirm swaps. So see, this one's even worse, right? This one didn't have one since February.
That's crazy. What is going on over there?
Oh, come on, man. Not even any fake volume? That's the problem with Bitcoin, man. But they can't do the fake volume.
Yeah, you can't do it.
You run out of money.
So the question is just like, what's the how do you change this? They are building new tools, right? They have their own minting kind of protocol now. Is it something like Magic Eden lists it? But even at that point, it's, like even Ordinals is still struggling. Like you look at Magic Eden volume for Ordinals is still quite low. They just got to get, I think it is, you got to get fresh people in there, whether it's Zoomers or whether some sort of project that's taking off somehow. It's the chicken or the egg situation, right? How do you bring, right? Attention, brings liquidity brings attention. So it's like, how do you get it there first at the end of the day?
Tough. They honestly just might need to rebrand the whole thing. Just do a full top to bottom rebrand, bro. Sometimes that's kind of all you need to ignite some sort of flame, to look like a new kid on the block, even though you've been on the block since the very beginning.
Interesting.
I like the counterparty branding, but I mean, 5 transactions in 3 months, I don't know if that's pushing the needle.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Like, Mike put out that had a tweet today about which was like the public announcement kind of thing. And they mentioned free mints, or fair mints or whatever they're calling it. I just, is in crypto, there's just, that doesn't move the needle. Like nobody cares. Right. So yeah, it's kind of leaning into an old narrative that's obviously not working. So yeah, to Chris's point, they got to come up with something new, and that's really hard to do. But hey, like I give Mike credit, back a year or 18 months ago when he did the stamps on X thing. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous and retarded and stupid, and we all said it was, but that shit took off. And what Banker did was actually what he was doing. Like that idea, we just didn't know how to connect it to chains. And I was reaching out to people, like try to connect it to Bell's Coin or try to do it, whatever. And the Banker guys figured it out, right? They did it. And so the ideas, Mike's, done a couple good ideas. So I wouldn't necessarily fade Mike. I mean, I do like, I know what you're saying, Chris. They need to attract the new audience. But Mike is creative, and Mike can come up with some stuff. So who knows, man? Maybe that's the strategy: is get Mike in here, let him do something crazy, man. And I'm here to watch that. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah, me freaking too, man. So we'll see. We still love Counterparty. I love Counterparty still.
Yeah, huge fans for real.
Some innovation heading on the Bitcoin side. I saw this yesterday. I think Farmer Joe reposted it. Maestro, which when we move Agent Hustle over to Bitcoin and start offering Bitcoin support, I think Maestro might be where we're going to have to talk to. So Maestro is a service. It's like a API service for UTXO based chains. So they started with Cardano, then they started doing stuff for Dogenals. Now they're to Bitcoin. They built a MCP server, so Model Context Protocol, which is essentially like an API for AI agents, in order to tap into Bitcoin. So you can query blocks, transactions, and addresses, check balances, check UTXOs, enable LLMs to talk with AI to get information about the Bitcoin data, and then connect the AI to the live blockchain infrastructure. What are your thoughts about it? This is the first kind of thing I've really seen of any type of AI project really doing Bitcoin. Although this isn't trading, this is kind of just like groundwork infrastructure of having an AI be able to interact with on-chain data.
I don't know. It's like what I'm reading about these MCPs is you got to be really careful. Like that's I don't know technically enough about this to know what the hell it is, but my timeline has been filled with like, you need to be really careful if you're building AI infrastructure or AI agents, how you act with these. You need to be really careful. Obviously we will be, but we've learned, like Jake, you and I have both learned over the last couple of years, like getting the data and APIs, like there is no one button easy solution on any chain. It is a clusterfuck. So, even on Solana, we've had a very difficult time. So God help us when we go to Bitcoin. I mean, you know what I'm saying, right? It's like when we go there, I mean, I expect nothing. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's good that they're doing this. Very, very excited for this because, we've just found this is very difficult from a builder's perspective to get good APIs for on-chain data. It's just really hard.
Yeah, Solana is a mess. With Bitcoin, you have Genie Data was doing it, Best in Slot, Unisat. There's like a handful of teams. It's very, very gated, and of course, Magic Eden has everything closed source. They're closed garden kind of approach to it, but steps in the right direction. Also, as well, I saw this was a big announcement. A lot of people were talking about. Hollow World is building more MCP type stuff. They launched a partnership with Four, which is the pump fund on BNB. And so with their MCP server, you could come in and provide special data. There's different functionality, kind of just building more MCP type stuff, more kind of infrastructure for AI agents across space or across BNB, excuse me. We've seen on Cookie Data or on Cookie Fun or whatever it is, that there's a few new chains that are really starting to lean into AI agents with BNB, Arbitrum, AVAX. I've seen Near starting to get into it. It's hard to fade this stuff, dude. It's just everywhere. It is everywhere, especially with this announcement yesterday, looking at even AI outside of crypto. Grok announced that they integrated memory. I think earlier this week, ChatGPT announced that they'd integrated memory. Obviously, Agent Hustle has had memory for 4.5 months now at this point, almost 5 months. So ahead of the game there. What's your thoughts on memory? I was listening to a Bankless podcast this morning, and the first 15 minutes, they were just talking about how game-changing memory is for AI. And I was like, man, we've been doing this for 5 months point in time. Thoughts on memory being now integrated into all of the gigantic LLM models?
Boom. At first, it seemed like additional features that I didn't really put together. But after using Hustle, when we first started using Hustle, when he developed his memory, it's like incredible. It totally makes the most sense out of anything that you're going to have a personal assistant that just kind of talks to you and remembers everything about you. And so that but you have to think of the memory pot that OpenAI is going to have to store all of this data. It's going to be insane. Or like Grok. I mean, so GPUs and just general compute is going to shoot to all-time highs almost instantly because there's so much data to be collected. And also that's extremely dangerous, right? I mean, that some of this stuff needs to be open source. Like one company should not have control of that much stored data. That seems totally insane. But that's kind of where we're at. In crypto, I mean, the possibilities are endless with how he can transact on chain, what he can learn, what he can research, and what he can kind of deep dive and kind of remember and take away. I believe we're still the only on-chain kind of AI that uses memory. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think I saw, it might have been Hanon announced that they were going to integrate memory. They also announced that they were going to integrate conditional stuff. So it seems like it's in the works from their side. I don't think I've seen anyone else even consider it.
Yeah, buddy.
Kind of wild. Maybe Banker is possibly one of them as well. But
I don't think not yet. I mean, everybody's moving in that direction. It's a really hard challenge, obviously. But the big players are already doing it. Man, the space is moving so quick. It's bonkers. I just don't know. Anybody who's fading AI and crypto is like, it still feels like it's going to be, the next wave of this cycle. Yeah, it's just, there's so much happening on the daily. I follow these guys on TikTok, bro. It's just the wave. And these guys these are full-time AI guys and they can't even keep up with the rapid pace of change. It's just AI building its fucking self. It's crazy. And I can't, this is the most powerful wave of my life. And from a business perspective, where you just got to try it. And how would I put it? Like when I tell my kid, like what kind of businesses to focus on, you could be the best entrepreneur of all time. If you're on a shitty wave, like surfing out behind me, if you're on a shitty wave, you're a shitty surfer. You're on a good wave. It takes you, even if you're mediocre, it makes you excellent. And so you want to pick the right wave. And AI is one of those that's so glaringly obvious. And anything tertiary around it, to fade it is madness, because it's the greatest wave of our lifetimes and probably the greatest wave of all time. So I love our position because, there are a couple great companies building in the space too, but this is the biggest wave of our lives. And to think that there's only going to be one winner or, in the kind of crypto space, like it's just really exciting. And there's so many potentials around it that, it is nice to be like the leader, like that Hustle was out there with a memory first. Is something like that's actually pretty awesome. And I think only up from here, man.
Only up, man, as we continue to build a bunch of new features coming out. I told the devs by the end of the weekend with DCA limit orders, be able to launch some pump fun shitters.
Bro,
that's gonna be fun. That'll be fun
God.
That'll be fun doing some live streams next week doing that, as well as a bunch of UX updates. And then we'll start building the copy trader, which I think is going to be very interesting. The on-chain revolution guys that we had on, they're like, that's what we want. We just want, I just want to be able to analyze the chain, see which wallets are performing best, and just copy their fucking wallet and see how it goes. Who really knows at that point in time? And then you get some automated stuff going on and bam, you're up there in first, performing some awesome volume. That's all I got today. So I think we could wrap it up so Adam can go hit the waves, go hit the surf, go have a lot of fun. You're not gonna be here next week, right? Traveling again?
Traveling next week, yeah. So
This will be me and Chris doing the show next week. I've reached out to some people, but we'll continue to grind. I appreciate everyone who sat and joined us, whether you're in the spaces or you're on the live stream or you're watching this later. We're here every day, dude, whether the sentiment is fucking ass or whether it's, whether it's tough to grab attention. So we'll be here. We're continuing to build. Appreciate everyone. Have a fun and safe weekend. I think I might do a live stream hustle later. Adam, I don't know if you're available, but if not, then
could make it.
Okay, we'll do some hustle stuff later. I sent some invites out, and then everyone enjoy your day. I'll see you later today or some point next week.
Later, guys.
So, peace.